We're going to talk about division and long division in one new recording, one new lesson. This does not replace the other videos necessarily, but I want to put this all in one place. The reason division is so important, division is the foundation for factors, it's the foundation for understanding prime numbers, the foundation for understanding factoring, it's the foundation for understanding greatest common factor, lowest common multiple, and fractions, which is the foundation of everything. So everything in math, the foundation of it all is division. Why division? Because division includes addition, subtraction, and multiplication. If you can do division, if you can do this long division, then you have the foundation to be able to do everything. Okay? And you have to be able to have the discipline. So division has 5 numbers, as we discussed in the previous videos. The first, let's take an example. 65 divided by 8. And I'm calling this simple division. Simple division, I'm calling simple division, where the quotient is less than 10. What does that mean? So first of all, what are the numbers in division? You have a dividend. In this case, the dividend is 65. The divisor is 8. So when we do a division or long division, always, you must always repeat out loud. Okay? You have to read the problem. This is 65 divided by 8. And this means the dividend is 65, the divisor is 8. Then we have to find the quotient. Now, before you find the quotient, you have to decide if you need long division or not. When do we need long division? When can long division help us? Only if and only if the dividend is more than 10 times the divisor. In this case, it is not. The dividend, 65, is less than the divisor times 8. The divisor is 8. 8 times 10 is 80. So when the dividend is less than the divisor times 8, then less than 10 times the divisor, then long division will not help you. Drawing this scaffold will not help you. You can do it. What goes inside the scaffold? The dividend goes inside, not the bigger number, the dividend. In this case, the dividend happens to be bigger than the divisor. We'll talk about cases where the dividend is not bigger than the divisor. It's also known as a fraction. We'll get into that. The divisor goes outside. The only use of using the scaffold in this case is to remind us that this is saying how many times does 8 go into 65. This also can be written as a fraction, 65, an improper fraction, 65 over 8. So 65 divided by 8 is the same as 65 over 8, which is the same as 65 scaffold. And so how many times does 8 go into 65? The reason I say that the scaffold long division will not help you here is because the number of times that 8 goes into 65 is less than 10. And therefore, you must either know it or you must look it up in a table. What we'll do is we'll look at it. So in this case, we'll bring the multiplication table. The divisor so the problem we're doing is 65 divided by 8. So I'm going to write it over here, 65 divided by 8. The divisor is 8. So therefore, we look in the 8 column. And we're looking for the dividend. We're looking for the dividend in this column. And we don't find it, but we do find 64, which means the next higher number is 72. So you look for the biggest number in the divisor column, in this case 8, that is not bigger than the dividend, and that would be 64. So the partial product is 64, and the quotient is 8. That's the row, the eighth row. The eighth row in the 8 column is 64. The 9th row would be 72. That's too high. So therefore, the quotient is 8. And the partial product is 64, because 8 times 8 is 64. That will give us 2 of the 3 numbers. So long division, as we'll see, will help us when the dividend is bigger than 10 times the divisor. But let's first, the simple division, the dividend is 65. The divisor is 8. The quotient, as we just saw, is 8. And the partial product is 64. And now the remainder, based on that, the remainder is equal to, the remainder is equal to the dividend, which is 65, minus the partial product, which is 64. The remainder is 1. So you have 5. So that's simple division, which means the quotient is greater than 0 and less than 10. It means the quotient is 1 through 9. Or no, it's even 0. So we'll talk about the case. What happens when you do the reverse? If I say 8 divided by 65, and don't get confused by this, 8 divided by 65 is exact. In this case, the dividend is 8, and the divisor is 65. And what that means is, how many times, if you draw it this way, the dividend goes on the inside, the divisor on the outside. Now, we're so used to division being where the dividend is bigger than the divisor, many students look at this and freak out and say, I can't do it. And they automatically, in their brain, they turn it into 65 divided by 8. It is not 65 divided by 8. This is 8 divided by 65. When the dividend is less than the divisor, then the quotient is 0, because that means 65 goes into 8 0 times. Don't be afraid of that. And the partial product is going to be 0, because the partial product is simply the quotient times the divisor. And therefore the quotient times 0 times the divisor, 65, is going to be 0. And the remainder is the dividend, which is 8, minus the partial product, is going to be 8. So when the dividend is less than the divisor, the quotient is 0, the partial product is 0, and the remainder is simply the same as the dividend. Okay? But those are the facts. That is simple division. That's it. So when the quotient is less than 9, which means when the dividend is less than 10 times the divisor, you need the table, or you need to figure out your own table, or do the multiplication. We'll go through other methods. But bottom line is, that is the simplest division. Now, drum roll. Long division. Long division is when the dividend, I'll take another dividend, 865 divided by 8. So now, again, what is the dividend? The dividend is 865. What is the divisor? The divisor is 8. Every single time, you must say this out loud until you master this 100%. Until you can do this perfectly over and over again with any large problems without a calculator. You must do these problems exactly this way. You must read it, and this says 865 divided by 8. The dividend is 865. The divisor is 8. Now, because 10 times 8 is 80, and 865, which is the dividend, is greater than 10 times the divisor, then and only then we use long division. What long division does is it takes this big problem that we would take a long time to solve manually by adding 8 and 8 over and over again, and turns it into 3 smaller problems. How many problems? 3. You look at the dividend. There are 3 digits in the dividend, 1, 2, and 3 digits. Therefore, when we use long division, we will be doing 3 separate smaller divisions, and each of those divisions will be a simple division, which will have a quotient of 0 to 9. So how do we do that? We draw the scaffold. All it is a series of smaller divisions. Again, what goes inside is the dividend, not the bigger number, but the dividend. In this case, the dividend is bigger. That goes on the inside. The dividend is the number you're dividing. So it's 865 divided by 8. The 865 is the dividend. In this case, 8 is the divisor. Now, we look at this problem. We see that we have 3 digits in the dividend. 1, 2, 3. And therefore, we will be doing 3, instead of one big division, one simple division, we'll be doing 3 smaller divisions. Each of those divisions will result in a single digit quotient. And therefore, we will have 3 digits in this quotient. And all we're doing is creating this. All this process does is lets us link together these three divisions together to create the answer, the quotient, and the remainder of this bigger problem, at 65 divided by 8. So what do? You start with the first dividend. The first division is going to be a dividend. Take the first digit. You take this first digit, and it's 8. The divisor will always be the same. The divisor stays the same through all these divisions. We'll be doing 3 separate divisions with 3 different dividends. Okay, so the first division is you take the first digit of the dividend, and that becomes the dividend of this division. So it becomes 8 divided by 8. The dividend is 8. The divisor is 8. 8 divided by 8. The quotient is 1. The partial product is 1 times the divisor is 8. 1 times 8 is 8. And the remainder is the dividend, which is 8, minus the partial product, which is 0. Now, how do we do this in long division? The way we do this is you take 8 divided by 8, you take the quotient, which is 1, and you place it very carefully, directly above the dividend. You then take the quotient, multiply it by the divisor. 8 times 1 is 8. That is the partial product. And you put that very carefully underneath the dividend. And then we find the remainder by drawing a line and subtracting the dividend, which is 8, minus the divisor. And 8 minus 8 is 0. So now I will get rid of these red markings. We don't need this anymore. That was basically showing you. So when you do this on paper, use 2 or 3 or more sheets of paper. On this sheet of paper, on the sheet of paper you're doing the division, keep that clean. Have that only what you have here. Do all the scrap work on another sheet of paper. Keep it clean. Now that we completed the first of 3 divisions, there are 3 divisions we're going to do because there are 3 digits in the dividend. We did the first one. When you get the remainder, that is the completion of the first division. Then we need to find the dividend for the next subdivision. And that we do by bringing down the next digit, which is 6. You place that next digit right to the right of the previous remainder. In this case, the previous remainder was 0. So now the new dividend is 6. 0, 6 is 6. And now we have a new problem. Now the problem is 6 divided by 8. And notice, the dividend is 6, not 8. It is 6 divided by 8. It is not 8 divided by 6. Do not make that mistake. The dividend is 6. The divisor is 8. And yes, that looks confusing, but when the dividend is less than the divisor, that means the quotient is 0. And that means the partial product is 0. And that means the remainder is the dividend, which is 6, minus the partial product, which means the remainder is the same as the dividend. So again, in the long division, you now have 6 divided by 8. The quotient is 0. 0 goes above that digit, very carefully, above that second digit of the dividend. And then the partial product is 0 times 8, is the quotient times the divisor, goes very carefully below the dividend. You draw the line, and now you're subtracting the 6, which is the dividend, minus 0, and you get 6. Okay? So now, that was the second. You do this on a separate piece of paper so that I want to see you work, and what I should see on the piece of paper you send to me should be only this. Now, what do? We have one more digit. We've done 2 of 3 divisions because we have a third digit to bring down. We bring that third digit down, and you put it to the right of the previous remainder. The previous remainder was 6. Now we have a new problem. It is 65. We have a new dividend. 65 divided by 8. Again, 65 is a dividend. 8 is the divisor. And the question is, how many times does 8 go into 65? For this, you will need your multiplication table. You go to your multiplication table. I did it before, so we have this already, but why don't we... Okay, so we're doing 65 divided by 8. 8 is the divisor. 65 is the dividend. 8 is the divisor. Say it over and over and over again out loud. Every single problem, say it out loud. Okay? I know this pretty well, and yet I do it all day long, every day, all day, day and night. I do this over and over again. It's fun. It's de-stress. It actually reduces stress. Don't rush. Don't worry about the time. Take your time. The way to speed up is to do this slowly and deliberately. The divisor is 8, so therefore we look in the 8 column. And by the way, since 65 is less than 10 times the divisor, okay, therefore when we look at this multiplication table for the 8 divisor, you just look at it to the first to the 9. Just go to 10. There you go. Okay? You don't have to go beyond that, because the quotient will have to be less than 10. It will have to be, because if it was more than 10, then the dividend would be more than 10 times the divisor. In this case, the dividend is 65, and therefore it is within these numbers. So now we look for 65 in this column. And we go, it's not 8, 16, and we go all the way to here, and we get 72 is too high, so it's 64. So 64 is the partial product, and then we go horizontally to the row, the 8th row. So therefore the 8th multiple of 8 times 8 is 64, so the partial product is 64. The quotient is 8. Now that we know that, we go back over here. We take that 65, we're doing 65 divided by 8, and the quotient is 8, as we just saw. So when you put the 8, you put the 8 above that dividend. You then take the partial product, which is 8 times 8. You got from the table also, is 64. You put that below the dividend, and now you take the dividend, 65, minus the partial product, 64, and you subtract them, 65 minus 64, and you get 1. So now there's nothing more to bring down. So we are done. So therefore, 865 divided by 8 is equal to 108, remainder 1. That's it. That's the process.